Hello, everybody. Welcome back to yet another video of FikarNot.com. Now, FikarNot from studies. So, today we're going to be talking about a wild little thing. It's in English literature chapter, a little different than what we do normally because we have been making videos of maths, chemistry, physics, bio, all of these main subjects, and also, but we have never made English, which is also a main subject. So this English chapter that we bring in front of you is yet interesting also, and I'm sure you all will enjoy this. So, wild little thing. When we talk about a wild little thing, what comes in your mind for the first thought of it? I would probably think that a wild as in probably, something wild, probably from, let's assume, the forest. Yeah, the forest. Okay, you're going to assume that, okay, at least I'm going to assume that it's wild as in it's something from the forest. Okay, now when I talk about thing, or a little as in probably cute in the sense, it's a little cute little thing, and thing definitely refers to a living being or a thing. But since it's cute and we have assumed that it is from the forest, I would assume that it is a living thing. Because definitely, why would you pick up an non-living thing which is also cute and is from the forest? So I'm assuming that that would be a living thing. So I'm assuming that it would be a living thing, right? So to come to a conclusion, I assume that it's probably a baby, but a baby wouldn't be wild. Does a baby come from a forest? No, definitely not. A baby does not come from a forest unless their parents abandoned him, but we're not getting into all of that. So a baby definitely does not come from the forest. In forest we find animals mainly. So I am thinking probably this chapter is probably about a wild animal. Probably you are too. So let's not make any other more predictions, and let's see for ourselves what, when they refer to a wild little thing, what do they actually mean, right? So let's get into it. So, when we were children, our father often worked at night. Once it was springtime, and he used to arrive home black and tired. Just as we were downstairs in our night dresses, the night met morning face to face. And the meeting was not always happy. Perhaps it was painful to my father to see us gaily entering upon the day into which he dragged himself, soiled and weary. He didn't like to go to bed in the spring morning sunshine. Okay, so over here, when we were children, so that means there is a author over here which is also a child, because when we were children, so the author over here who is narrating the story was a child during this story. In the storyline, he is a child. He or she talks about our father often worked at night. Once it was springtime and he used to arrive home. So his father, or his or her father, let's just say his for now. So his father, he had night shifts, something called night shifts, where you work at night in order to earn what? In order to earn money. So definitely their father used to work at night, and once it was springtime and he used to arrive home black and tired. Remember this, black and tired, because why would he arrive black and tired? Of course, if it was a normal job. So let's just keep this in mind, black and tired. Okay, so I'm going to write this right over here in a slanting way, but okay, I'm going to write black over here. Okay, so we'll keep this in our mind. So just as we were downstairs in our night dresses, so in our night dresses, as in after a long night shift, he used to come during the daybreak. He used to come during the daybreak. So definitely just as they were in their night dresses, they woke up from bed after having a long night of their father. Definitely, their father had a long night because he was working all night. So just as it was daybreak, just as it was morning, the kids used to come down in their. They definitely used to be in their night dresses because they definitely slept at night in their night dresses. And just as they woke up, they used to sit in their night dresses down, and they used to see their father come home that time. Okay. And it wasn't always a very happy. What can you say? It wasn't always very happy. Why wasn't it always very, very happy? Why? Because it was painful to my father to see us gaily enter upon the day into which he dragged himself soiled and weary. Now, soiled and weary means dirty and tired. So it wasn't always happy because his father definitely used to be very, very tired working all night. This is definitely a thing because our body normally is immune to, at least for the people who work in the morning, they're normally our body is immune to sleeping in the night and working in the day, and not sleeping until it's afternoon and you're tired after a long day. So this is what our body is immune to. So how much ever we try getting into a schedule of working all night and coming during the daybreak, it's definitely tiring, because if you would work the same hours in the morning, it wouldn't be as tiring as it would in the other case, because our body is immune to sleeping in the night. And over here we don't know, their father used to work every day at night. So while there would be all the cleaning used to happen, his father or their father couldn't even sleep in peace. That's what we're talking about. So their father couldn't even sleep in peace, because when we work in the morning, there's vacuum here and there going on. So it's really very not right, and it's definitely very unpleasant in the morning to sleep, because if you work in the morning, it's definitely more, yes, ready to go style, right? So that is why it's definitely he was very black and tired and soiled and weary in the morning. He didn't like to go to bed in the spring morning sunshine. Now what does this tell us? This tells us something very, very important, that not only was his father very tired after he came home in the mornings, that he was also a morning person. He was a morning person because he didn't like to go to bed in the spring morning sunshine, such a beautiful day. So he was a morning person. He was a nature person who loved mornings, ready to go, kind of, just as I said. Some people feel very empowered. It's a new day, it's new sunshine, new day breaks, new everything. Let's go, and just a ready to go person. And definitely was a morning person and did not like to sleep in the mornings, because if I am a morning person, I'll normally not sleep. Definitely I'll enjoy the morning, I'll enjoy the daybreak. And if I'm a night person, I'll probably enjoy the darkness, I'll enjoy the night, and I'll enjoy staying over there. So this proves that his dad, or their dad, was definitely a morning person. Moving on to the next paragraph. But sometimes he was happy because of his long walk through the fields in the daybreak. He loved the open morning after a night down the pit. He watched every bird, every stir in the trembling glass, answering the call of birds. So right over here in this paragraph, it opens up a lot of secrets, of a person, right? It opens up a lot of secrets, doesn't it? Okay, so over here clearly, so first thing that comes into our mind is, but sometimes he was happy because of his long walk through the fields in the first day break. Through the fields in the first day break. This shows us that their father was also a nature person. Because he loved walking through the fields. That's why he was happy, seeing the fields around him. When we wake up in the morning, the birds chirp. If you live in a village, probably the chicken over there does the sound every morning, which wakes you up. So all of this, he was a nature person. He loved all of this. He loved the nature around him. in short. So he also loved the open morning after a night down the pit. Now, right over here, this answers a lot of questions. Right, night down the pit, as in he was a miner, a coal miner. That is why he was black due to what? He was also black due to coal. He was black due to the coal that used to go on his face. That's why he was all black and tired, because he was a coal miner. So he used to work all night along with that also. So he used to work all while we are saying that. So he used to work all night as well. He watched every bird, every stir in the trembling glass, answering the calls of birds. Answering the call of birds over here means when the birds do their, chirping sound, he listens to them and just, mesmerized. He just becomes mesmerized with all those sounds around of him. Okay? One sunny morning, we were all sitting at the table when we heard his heavy tread. He passed the window darkly, and we heard him go into the scullery. But immediately he came into the kitchen. We felt at once that he had something to tell us. No one spoke. We watched his black face for a second. "Give me a drink," he said. Okay, so in this paragraph, what is happening is, what is happening is that one sunny morning, definitely, he was after his night shift, he came home, and all the children were sitting on the table, probably eating their breakfast and getting to go to school. So they heard his sound of his boots, because when you mine down, you wear heavy boots, at least miners do, because so that they don't get their legs dirty and or stuff like that. So while he was walking, all the children, they heard the sound of his boots. So heavy tread, as in they heard they heard the sound of his boots. Okay. He passed the window darkly, and we heard him go into the scullery. But immediately he came into the kitchen, because after working all night, what would you want to do? You would just want to bathe and want to sleep. Bathe because working all night, you're a coal miner, getting all the coal in your face, so you definitely want to sleep, and you definitely want to take a bath and get all freshen up. So instead of going to his bedroom, taking a bath and stuff, he came into the kitchen. And that is why the kids thought that he had something to tell them, because why would you come all black and tired, and the first thing you wouldn't see is eating? The first thing you'll probably see is the bed and the washroom, right? So no one spoke. We watched his black face for a second. Black face due to the coal, as written over here by my students. I'm sorry, this is my previous year students, and yeah. So we watched his black face for a second. It's due to the coal. Okay. And he said, "Give me a drink." Give me a drink, as in over here we're referring to tea, sorry. So "give me a drink," he said. My mother hastily poured out his tea. He went to pour it out into his saucer, but instead of drinking it, he immediately or suddenly put something on the table among the teacups. A tiny brown rabbit, a small rabbit, sitting against the bread as still as it were a statue. A rabbit, a young one. Who gave it to you, father? Okay, so over here, his mother, as in their father's husband, or sorry, their father's wife, she quickly poured out the tea, seeing his serious face, because they all knew that their father had something to tell them. So he poured it in a saucer to probably get it hot, and instead of drinking his tea, he took out something from his bag and kept it on the table. And that little thing was a small rabbit. So we were right, it is an animal, and it is also a wild animal. Now, why do we say wild? Because as the father was what was he? He was a nature lover. So probably through his walk of his fields, he got the rabbit. So that is how we know that It is a small rabbit and all of that. So a rabbit, a young one. Who gave it to you, father? But he laughed and went to take off his coat. We jumped towards the rabbit. Is it alive? Can you feel its heartbeat? My father came back and sat down heavily in his armchair. He dragged his saucer to him and blew his tea, pushing out his red lips under his black mustache. Where did you get it, father? I picked it up, he said, wiping his naked forearm over his mouth and beard. So over here you can see the children are so excited about the rabbit. They just cannot stop asking the questions such as, is it alive? Can you feel its heartbeat? Where do you get it? A young one, who gave it to you? They're overloading their father with the questions. So they're very inquisitive, they're very excited to know more about the rabbit, of course. Father was also in a good mood seeing their children so happy. But now we will see a little mixed reaction in the next page as well. So let's go on to the next page. Over here is the picture of the father and the three children. 1, 2, 3. A rabbit. And the mother over here looks very angry. Let's see what happens next, yeah? Okay, where? It is a wild one? Came my mother's quick voice. Yes, it is. Then why do you bring it? Cried my mother. Oh, we wanted it, came our cry. Yes, I've no doubt you did, answered my mother sharply, but she was drowned in the noise of her questions. On the field path, my father had found a dead mother rabbit and 3 dead little ones, but this one alive, but unmoving. But what killed them, father? I couldn't say, my child. I should think she had eaten something. So, over here again, the children are so excited. Their questions just do not stop, and this just shows they are, what are they? They're inquisitive. First thing, that they're definitely inquisitive, and second, that they are very, very excited, because definitely there's a new member has come into their family, so they're definitely very excited and inquisitive. But over here, a mixed reaction of the mom comes in. See, first thing she asks is it a wild one? So this just shows that something must have happened to her or their family of experience of a wild animal. That's why the first question she asks is it a wild one? Then the father answers, yes, it is. It is a wild animal. So the mother says, oh, then why did you bring it? Definitely, that's why something must have happened, and let's see what must have happened, right? Then say, oh, we wanted it, came our cry. So there's mother's tearful cry, and she's very worried. So there's mother is worried, came mother's worried or tearful cry, as compared to the kids excited cry. So both are different, very, very, very different. One is very excited, one is very worried. And as suspected, on the field path, as he was a nature lover, he found a dead mother rabbit with 3 little ones, and this one was alive, but it was unmoving. Now we say it was unmoving probably because in the shock of his family members dying, and probably also because he didn't die, the rest of them died, so they assume that he had eaten something. So we are also assuming over here he also ate something that didn't kill him, but he was still unmoving, and he was also in shock of seeing his mother and his siblings die. Next, what killed him, father? I couldn't say, my child. I should think she had eaten something. Why did you bring it? Again, my mother's voice of blame. You know what it would be. My father made no answer, but we were loud in disagreement. He must bring it. It's not big enough to live by itself. It would die, we shouted. Yes, and it will die now. And then there will be another outcry. My mother hated the tragedy of pets. Our hearts sank. Over here, again, our inquisitivity, or you can say the question that we had in our mind, comes to an end over here. Definitely the father, the mother definitely, and the whole family, they had a pet earlier. They did, because over here, another outcry, as in they had a pet before, not just any pet, a wild one. That is why the mother first asked, "Is it a wild one?" If it wouldn't, probably the mother, or yeah, the mother wouldn't be that worried, because normally we all know that wild animals tend to not survive in homely natures, just because they're just used to that free environment and not a confined space, and not that much love and food given to them. They go hunting by themselves, and they're pretty independent, while if someone adopts them, they become dependent and they're not able to survive in that nature, even though things get easier because you don't have to find your own food anymore. But they're definitely more happy with their own ways. And in this case, the rabbit has also lost his or her mother, its siblings, and that is why it's also in shock and it's not moving. So that is why the mother also say another outcry, and she hated the tragedy of dead pets. That it means over here that mother, she did not like the children get upset after the pet died, because since it's a wild one, the pet is more likely to die in the homely nature. So that is what they're talking about. Now let's move on to the next page. It won't die, father, will it? Why will it? It won't. I should think not, said my father. You know well enough it will. Haven't we had it all before? Said my mother. They don't always die, said my father angrily. But my mother reminded him of other little wild animals he had bought, which had sulked and refused to live and brought storms of tears and trouble into our house. Over here, everything becomes crystal clear that it won't die and everything, everything the mother and the children say. Over here, as the mother says, you know well enough it will. Haven't we had it all before? So that means they have had wild pets, and not only any pet but a wild pet before, and they don't always die. That's what their father said, because definitely their father would also say, just for the sake of his children, and also probably he would also think so because he is a nature lover himself. And his mother also reminded all of them how before, when they had wild pets, as she said in these lines over here, little wild animals he had bought from the field. Again, this just shows that how much of a nature lover their father was. And also all the wild animals he had bought in the home, didn't not even one survived. But the children, of course, were very excited about the rabbit. Having a pet is always very exciting. It's always filled with excitement, especially if you have a cute little rabbit. So definitely they still were like, oh, nothing will happen. But the mother always, our mother knows the best, right? So in this case, the mother also thought of taking experience from the last situations that happened, that it will also bring tears, and everyone had sulked and refused to live just because of the rabbit. Not only the rabbit, I'm sorry, other wild animals, probably a dog or a cat, whatever he had bought, wild dogs and cats, they all had sulked, as in they all had refused to adapt to the domestic life, and they were unhappy at being moved from their natural habitats. So all the wild animals they had bought, they all were sulked and they all refused to live. But all at the end of all of this, it just brought a lot of misery and sadness among the family, and especially the children, because they pets have a really good bond and attachment with especially children. So that is why, and that is why the mother was very worried, because she didn't want her children to sulk and to get all tearful, and I think every mother would say that. So that is what the mother was going against. Now moving on. Trouble fell on us. The little rabbit sat on our lap, unmoving, its eyes wide and dark. We bought it milk, warm milk, and held it to its nose. It sat as still as it were far away, hidden in its hole. We wetted its mouth with few drops of milk. It gave no sign, did not even shake off the wet white drops. Somebody began to weep. a few secret tears. "What did I say?" cried my mother. "Take it and put it down in the field." Her command was in vain. We were dressed for school. There sat the rabbit. It was like tiny dark cloud. Watching it, the emotions died of our breast. Useless to love it. It did not want love and affection, a wild little thing. It became more silent when we approached it with love. So over here, the children are definitely saying that trouble fell on them because the rabbit was not responding to any of their love and affections. Even though the little rabbit, it sat on their laps, it was still unmoving. Its eyes were wide and dark. They bought him milk. They bought it warm milk. They held it up to their nose. Its nose, and it still sat as it was far away, hidden in its hole, because rabbits have little holes, right, where they live in. So it was still unmoving. So we can conclude two things from this, that the rabbit was unmoving also because probably he was in shock, as I said before, of the death of his siblings and mother. And second, that it wasn't able to adapt. It wasn't able to adapt. So this is why the rabbit was very, unmoving, not very, it wasn't really responding, because normally if it's wild, it'll respond, probably jump from here to there, make a mess. But in this case, no response. So the mother, as usual, her intuition, she thought that my intuition was becoming right, and this rabbit is not responding, and what is happening? She commanded to take it to the field. The children were then driven, as indefinitely, they were forcefully, so in this case, they were forcefully taken to school, or they were taken to get dressed for school, because they didn't want to leave. They definitely wanted to take time and, get the rabbit moving and everything, right? But there sat the rabbit. It was still like a tiny dark cloud. Watching it, the emotions died of our breasts, used us to love it, because that rabbit did not want any love and affection. It just wanted its wild nature, and it wasn't just getting used to the domestic nature. It was one of the rabbit's tricks as well, to get out of the domestic nature and go to its wild home, because at this point of time it would just realize that I want to live by myself. Probably I'll die in this domestic nature with all this love and affection. It didn't want the love and affection. So that is why it wasn't moving. Moving on, wrapping it in a piece of flannel, I put it in the dark corner of the cold parlor and put out a saucer of milk before its nose. At midday after school, creeping into the front room, there we saw the rabbit, still and unmoving, in the piece of flannel. It was a sore problem to us. "Why doesn't it drink its milk, mother?" we whispered. Our father was still asleep. "It prefers to sulk its life away, silly little thing, I'm sorry. A great problem. Prefers to sulk its life away." We put some leaves to its nose, but it took no notice. Yet its eye was bright. At tea time, however, it had jumped a few inches out of its flannel, and there it sat again, uncovered, a little solid cloud of silence. Only its side moved slightly with life. So over here, the children definitely went to school, they did all of that stuff, but the rabbit was still just sitting over there like a solid piece, like a showcase. Like they had bought a showcase in, who wasn't moving. It was not moving. Whatever they did, nothing really worked, and nothing really seemed to work. So this was definitely a sore problem, because the children were hurt and upset that the rabbit refuses all their attempts to care for it. But in the end, they say one thing: its eye was still bright. This proves to us that the rabbit was not dead. It was not dead, and there was still little hope of the rabbit to probably survive in their homely nature, in their domestic nature. So the mother again was being negative at this point because she didn't want the rabbit at home. Not like she didn't like animals or pets, she just didn't like the wild ones because she didn't want to see their children cry. And no one ever wants that. Neither probably your mother or your father, definitely. So a grey problem prefers to sulk its life away. So they even put some leaves, they put everything under its nose, but nothing seemed to be respond. Since it was a rabbit, it probably even tried to escape a bit. But again, once they came in, it was like a piece of showcase, a solid. Moving on. Darkness came. My father set off to work. The rabbit was still motionless. Despair was coming over the sisters, a threat of tears before bedtime. Clouds of my mother's anger gathered as she murmured against my father. Once more the rabbit was wrapped in the old flannel, but now it was carried into the scullery and put under the copper fireplace so that it might imagine itself inside a hole. The saucers were placed about, 4 or 5 here and there on the floor, so that if the little creature should chance to jump about, it could not fail to come upon some food. So over here again, yet another attempt comes on that the darkness came definitely. Their father set off to work because he had late night shifts, and the rabbit still was motionless. They Despair came against the sisters because so this is a boy who's narrating the story. Seeing the picture, there were two sisters and there was one boy. So the boy is narrating the story, and the two sisters that are there, they were becoming really very sad because they just thought that the rabbit was really very, you know, wasn't really able to set into the domestic nature. So again, they wrapped the rabbit into the flannel, and their mother was definitely very angry because it was a wild little rabbit, and she just thought that it wouldn't survive. Anyone would, because their mother in this case is definitely more sensible, and she thinks that just like everything, this is also not going to survive. So again, they put it near the copper place and everything, just like, a warm little hole. They do all of this to make it feel like, oh, this may also be a wild nature. So let's see what happens next. After this, my mother was allowed to take from the scullery what she wanted, and then she was forbidden to open the door. When morning came and it was light, I went downstairs, opened the scullery door. I heard a slight movement, then I saw drops of milk all over the floor. And there was the rabbit, the tops of his ears showing behind a pair of boots. He sat bright-eyed, moving his nose and looking at me while not looking at me. So over here, the rabbit finally, you know, he's finally adjusting into the nature, and he was drinking the milk that was served to him because there were drops of milk all over the floor. So this just shows that the rabbit first may have agreed to his new life, and he said that I'm getting love and affection over here, and I'll just stay over here. First thing, and second, probably getting putting him into a flannel and near the copper fireplace may have brought a lot of affection, and he must have thought that this is also close to my wild nature, and that is why he also must have thought to survive in that nature and be happy. So, next, moving on. He was alive, very much alive. My father stopped at the door. Father, the rabbit's alive. Of course, he said. Mind how you go in. By evening, however, the little creature was quite tame. Over here, we conclude that the rabbit survived, very much alive. The father thought that, of course, yes, he was alive. And the father also wanted the rabbit to be alive for his children. So, the rabbit was pretty much alive, and by evening, that's the next evening, the rabbit was alive and was quite tame actually. Normally rabbits go here and there, especially if they're wild, but this rabbit was quite tame, and really subtle and really nice. And with this, we come to an end of the story. I hope you all understood this story well enough, and just understood as a whole what the story is about, how the story takes place, what the Why Little Thing is all about, the theme of the poem, sorry, the story, the prose. And I hope you all understood. If you have any doubts, feel free to post it in the comment section. I'll take it up in any of the next videos, or I'll again give the answer below in the comment section itself. And that's it from me to you today. I hope you all enjoyed, and bye guys, until the next video of FikarNot.com. Now FikarNot from studies. Bye.